I grew up in South Central / Watts, but I took the Magna bus to Roosevelt. By 5:30 in the morning, had to be at the bus stop by 6:10. It's dedication. It required dedication and love, and we had that. Look, I'm 5 foot nothing. I At that point I weighed 130 something, 140 pounds, wet. That was me. I was not big at all. I had a fire in me. Like the year before, they had already told me that I wouldn't play. Because of my size, because X, Y, and Z. Okay, whatever. So that's why I really relished the opportunity to get on the field because I want to prove people wrong. So, and I did, I think, my sophomore year. And I ended up playing and did a lot. It was fun. And then but my junior year, I was overshadowed for sure. So most of those core players, we were already together. So we already built those bonds. A lot of the kids that were there, we went through the grinder. We were in the trenches together already. So I know we had something. But I think Casa and then Douglas and then implementing a new offense, the O line having to learn the Delaware wing T was a whole different thing. So and then even as a running back, I had to learn a lot. I had to understand the defense and then the offense because I wasn't starting, and I know I wasn't going to start. I was going to be special teams at best. But I do feel that I had to prove myself to the new coaches, and I saw a direction, a positive direction, because I liked what he had to say. In that, I wanted someone to motivate me, someone to say, "Hey, let's go be champions." I'm like, "Okay, let's do it then." And I think we had the core to do something special, and I think it was the beginning of that pivot in Roosevelt football. And it goes through eras, right? The glory years of the '80s, and I think it was a moment where we're going through there's peaks and valleys, and then we're coming from a valley. I think nothing's ever perfect, no one's ever perfect, but it was a little bit of a valley, and I think we're gonna mount that momentum to go forward. But I think more than that, it's that passion that you have to be at Roosevelt, and all the obstacles you encounter. It makes you stronger, and it really catapulted like my life and my decisions. Eventually, it's not outside of football. I mean, I love football. Don't get me wrong. I like competitive, hard nosed. Get this done together. But it also teaches you like what you want to do with yourself in the long run. Because not everyone's going to be playing in the NFL or even Division I football. Like, but it makes you strong and then makes you focused, and you don't never give up. And that's, I think, something that it really personified that. Like we didn't give up. We gave everything that we had, and I think that manifested into the beginning of that new era at Roosevelt. And so yeah, it was a very passionate. I think he was very passionate, and so was Douglas. Douglas was a little foul mouth, but he also had this. He had a cerebral understanding of football that most people don't have. And so then I know he later on went on to win championships at Narbonne. I like intellect. I like when someone knows what's up, and so there was a combination of love and passion and intellect, and that manifested itself into that season. I think that was the origins, and then it played itself out the way it did, but especially not defeating Garfield for whatever the 7 years, except for when we were JV, we beat them, by the way. That was an amazing game. JV team where we were both 5-0, and then we competed, and it was like 6-0. So it was one of those things. I know we had it in us since like before. I know we had a good solid core players, and I think it came to manifest itself. I mean, I really wish that we would have had them maybe our junior year too. Then we would have been honestly way better our senior year. But having said that, I think that introduction, that nervous feeling, it turned into a momentum that lasted throughout the entire year, all the way to banning. Even though that was kind of a bad 4A defeat, but nonetheless, we tasted that, and then the new generations tasted that, and I think it set up the future. At practice, our first time we had pads on, and they put me on the line for a kickoff, and I'm like, this is the moment. Like this is the moment that I've been looking for. And so I remember they hiked the ball, and then I'm just balls out, just everything I have going straight forward towards the runner. I see the ball. I see Ramiro looking at the sky. Ramiro, he's about to catch the ball. I'm like, man, I'm gonna meet him. And yeah, as soon as he caught the ball, smack. It was one of those like ducky moments where you go through him. It's not at him, it's through him. And I felt dizzy. Like I remember feeling dizzy, like smack. And then he was on the floor looking up, and then I'm like, oh dude. and then he was bleeding. I'm like, whoa, what happened? And then everyone at that point, I'm a little dizzy, but I could hear everybody just making like, oh, like a big roar, and it was Casa coming in. That's it, practice is over. So kind of like a culminating or an exclamation point to the first practice. So it was my moment to shine. It was the first time that I think they really saw that I could do something, and I go all in. Like if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna go all in. And I think that's what Roosevelt football was for me. It's people that went all in and gave all their hearts and all their souls. Talent, no matter what level of talent you had, you gave everything you had. And I think that's the mentality I brought, and that's what I wanted to see. Totally should have been a concussion protocol, but back in those days, they didn't have that stuff. There was no CTE. I guess they invented it after. We might be suffering a little from it. Do you know what Douglas did? He noticed that, and the starting defense would play, I would be in the scrimmage offense, and he saw that I would run on our players. So that's how they got to know who I was, because I would run like I'm like, guys, block, like you guys do stuff, like I'm gonna try to break, and I would go heads with Roach, with Ellis, with all of them. So I think they knew that if I could go heads up with our defense and I survived and I didn't fumble the ball and I was running and I was gaining 5, 10, 50 yards, then they knew that I could do it in the game. And I was always going against the starters. I was used to it. There's those opportunities that you get. And I think if you take advantage of them, and things work out for you. And not looking back, for sure. And we had size. Our O line had size. We had some skilled players. I think we were good. We were a good team, and well coached as well. So I think that played a big difference as well. Man, that bonfire on the field, in the locker room, and then going out there, sitting in that, like sitting with everybody, the stories, the stories about the stripes, right? Those are the stories on the stripes, and then just the whole pageantry, the whole setup, like everything was like it was perfect, like for us. It was the memories that it I felt like we were in Texas, but it was in Texas. It was in Boyle Heights, right? It was that passion, that love, and it was great, dude. It was everything you could have imagined. I think as someone growing up wanting to play football in high school, it was great. Like I fell in love. I was in love with that world, and so that's what I remember from that. The three stripes, like donning it for the first time, being the first team ever at Roosevelt to wear the three stripes. What is it? Pride, honor, courage, right? And so it was a really good feeling initiating that era, and that was that wave of the Casa era that came about. And Douglas, my home school is Jordan. I was supposed to go to Jordan, and I actually knew the quarterback at Jordan at the time. His name was David, and he was a 6'5" African American dude that I went to elementary school with. And I remember I hit him. He threw the ball away, but I hit him hard, and he was on the floor. And think about that. I'm 5 foot nothing. He's 6'5", and I smacked him, and he was on the floor. It was hilarious, and it was, and we dude, we destroyed them that game. They were not a small team though. I remember them being actually big. They had some like Samoans. They had some big kids in there. And they had this one linebacker. I think tossed me like 10 yards. They had some pretty talented athletes actually. I think if they were coached right, they would probably had a good team. I carried the ball. I had over 100 yards. I think I scored once at least. Um, but again, it's not me. It was the O line. The O line was the one. They were the beastie ones. Mario, Lavoy, Nestor, Corona, Angulo, our tight end. Like they're the ones. The scheme was what was winning. Like I just followed the path. I went all in. Like if I'm gonna give you, gonna give me the opportunity, I'm gonna do the best that I can. And that's what I brought every day. And I think that's the spirit that we had in that team. Like we brought it, like from all levels, from the starters and the people who were not starters and who were in the practice squad or whatever, in the special teams. I think we all had this camaraderie. We really had a fuel to really want to win. And I think our coaches took it to the next level, and our passion allowed it to happen as well. And I think that's something that, in retrospect now, as a grown man, like yeah, I still live by that passion. Like I still make those choices, and I'm ready to step up. When it's time for me to step up, and I think that's something that you learn. And in that team, I learned a lot of that. I went through trials and errors just like everybody else, and at the end of the day, you succeed in life, and I think that's the most important thing. That's the most important thing. Football is temporary, dude. 4 or 5 years, six, and I don't know if you want to bash your head in that much, man, because CTE is real. Like that stuff it's something you have to be aware of. Like you have to be careful with that. But you know, um, we lived it. I loved it. I loved the passion. I loved, putting the pads on, going to practice, and it was fun. It was fun. I let it all in the field. I really have no regrets. Like I don't like have an itch to go. Like I'm good. I left it all on there, and that's how I felt. Like I really left everything that I had on the field, and yeah, that's the passion that I had with our squad. The quick trap is I love the quick trap, and then so the quick trap is what would get me, and that was the one that I always broke my runs because it was literally up the middle. Because I would hide behind our O line because I'm small, so then I would just get really low, and then they couldn't see me, and I would just like navigate through the hole. It's strategy too. I mean, so that's when the coaching comes into play, man. Our coaches, they took us to the next level, gave us that opportunity to win. I think as long as we executed our plays, I think we're good. There's so many streaks that we broke that year. Like the loss, we would lose to Bell, and then we're everybody's homecoming game, and because everyone thought they were gonna beat us, so then we're everybody's, and then we ended up beating everybody in their homecoming game, which was perfect. It was their homecoming game, and we beat them, and so that was sweet because having lost to them for several years, it was nice to beat them finally. Like all these East Side schools, they'll bring the wood too, man. They're like us. A lot of the kids there are the same, really, and so they brought the wood and they played hard. And we came out on top, and that was the manifestation of all the work, all the techniques, all the strategy, all the everything, and then it was peaking towards what we were gonna go to, like the classic, right? So yeah, I think it was a great victory. It made us, I think, who we were. It was fun, but that's the beauty of football. Like I remember playing practice in the mud. Like I remember we practiced several times in the mud when it was raining. That was the best. Like you're just running and sliding in the mud and hitting people. It was just fun. Like I think at the end of the games we cramped. We would cramp because I'm like, why am I cramping? I drank at this, but it's because we played all the freaking time, and you just didn't stop playing. So I was like tired playing fullback and then playing linebacker and then this and like you said, like eventually your body doesn't forget. You might forget, like, oh, who cares? I'm just playing. But your body, when you're dehydrated, it'll remind you. Remember, like when my dad would sometimes drive us to school, and we'd pass by, like on the 710, we passed by East LA College, and then I would just envision, like I think I literally would envision like scoring a touchdown, or I'm like, damn, it's gonna be our year. We need to do something, like, and it's like these butterflies that you get, like the nervousness and then the pageantry and then the pressure of everyone's expectations, and it's like that's when you realize the atmosphere, the everything that is the East LA Classic, and it is with the Roosevelt football. That fire was all there, and it's like you don't know if you're gonna win, you don't know if you're gonna lose yet. I mean, I knew I was gonna give it my all, but you never know in football. Like in any sport, like you gotta actually play it. Like their record wasn't that great during lunch. Like getting y'all suited up. We had like suits, like ties or whatever. You got flowers and like it just the whole. It was a different era back then. Because now with social media, it's different. But we lived that world. It was cool. It was like it was fun. It was fun. It was cool. It was all the pressure, all the stuff, and it was our time to shine, man. It's just the pageantry, man. Like, it's that type of stuff you see in Division 1 football, right? The amount of fans and the passion and everything. Like you don't see that often, especially on the high school level. Not even like the St. John Bosco's in modern days, because they have amazing teams and amazing players, but the love and the passion, the community that exists within this game is not compared to it. Like, you can't compare it to it because it's just different. I don't know. The roots are deeper. The tradition is deeper, um, and I think it's a beautiful thing, man. It gives us people that I would never have been recruited by Modern Day or St. John Bosco, and it gives you the opportunity to shine, and show your true colors, and it does that platform, the community that platform. I literally dreamt it, like I literally would figure it, and to actually happen, touchdown in the classic, like summiting like Mount Everest or something. You're like, fucking here, like I did it, like this is for the W, we're gonna win as a team, and so it's just gratifying, to work so hard and actually have it manifest to reality how you want it to work out, because it doesn't always work out, but at that moment, 7 years losing to them, our senior year, working all those years, looking at all the L's the previous years, feeling that pressure from our people, and then doing it and accomplishing our goals as a team. I think that it's one of those things that no one can take away from you. It's once you cross that path, once we had that W, and it really it that was the pinnacle, I think, of that year. I mean, in terms of gameplay, yeah, it could be debated, but I think it's the pinnacle for our senior year in our class, I think that was the pinnacle, man. It was the beginning for that era, I think. And you know what you do in the classic is, and we're fortunate because our video comes out pretty cool and the narration is amazing, and you can always relive those memories by looking at that and looking at your mistakes, and it sets you up in a way that you can be successful in life. Like I said before, like you're gonna have adversity. You know, you're not gonna always win, even though you want to. But know that there's a bigger picture and there's more victories to be had in different ways. And so that's what I had from Roosevelt football, like being able to persevere regardless of what's going on, victory or loss, it don't matter. Like you can persevere in life, and I think that's the beauty of the passion that we developed there.